Dang, my video on the top 10 things you can't unsee in Pokemon did a lot better than I thought it was going to do. So let's make another. There's definitely 10 more things we can talk about with this subject, and fortunately that last video gave me a lot of ideas, because for starters, I didn't think I was going to trigger so many people with the Generation 1 offset. I thought there was going to be a lot of just internet people that are all high and mighty saying, oh, I'm not bothered by my character being offset in the first generation games, but it looks like that this is something very specific that tickles people's OCD like few other things, so that did a lot better than I thought it was going to, and I would have put it lower on the list in that case. And then just reading the comments. A lot of comments, a lot of suggestions about things that should have been on the list but didn't make it, such as Doduo's back sprite. Huh, I don't remember that in the first generation Pokemon games. Wait, no, that's Doduo's back. Yeah, that's what I remember over there. And what are you doing, Togekiss? You're a 4th generation Pokemon, not a 1st generation Pokemon. What's going on? Okay, yeah, so now we're dealing with a classic spicy meme right here. So apparently the Gen 1 original red and green version Hitmonchan sprite was really just Togekiss watching Doduo taking a crap. Now the weird thing about this is I remember thinking about it for the last video, but I don't think I wrote it down, so I just kind of forgot about it. And this is definitely an iconic can't unsee, because now I don't see Hitmonchan whenever I see that. I immediately associate it with the meme, and at the very least, I see a squatting Doduo, and that's just a little awkward. Number 9 on the list, we have Bonsly, and we have Whismur. I don't know how to phrase this, because we're going to be talking about baby Pokemon butts. And if that wasn't enough to demonetize this video and put me on a list, well then I don't know what is, but it looks like we have to go into the topic right now, because Whismur, how do you describe that? It's just got a tail hole, and it's just gonna be there, and when you're using that Pokemon, that's all you see. So it's like a cat. You know, when a cat comes up to you, it turns around, just puts its butt in your face. That's what Whismur is doing right there, and yeah, and now that you've seen it, once you notice that it's there, in the first couple of games, the sprite wasn't as noticeable, but as we got into future Pokemon games, we're more zoomed out on that back sprite. We're more in some kind of battle stance that's going on, so now that's just straight where your eyes go once you realize what's going on. Just a little weird right there, but Bonsly is also a pretty bad one because of Brock's Bonsly. In the Pokemon anime, whenever that thing tilts, gets in the air or something, we see this strange hole that's just chilling at the bottom, and while it kind of is meant to resemble a flower pot, it's just lewd. I think that's the best way I can put it. We got a baby Pokemon, it has a hole in its bottom, and I don't want to discuss that any further, but another weird thing about Pokemon buttholes, and that's something I never thought I would say in the history of my YouTube channel, but it's been said and we have to deal with it right now, is that for the banned Dratini episode, because of the overusage of guns and the hostage situation that goes on with the Warden, a lot of people have probably seen it just out of curiosity of oh, what are all the banned Pokemon episodes? Or, oh, I have to check out the banned Pokemon episodes and stuff. There's that one scene when they're talking about their plan to electrocute the lake and then capture the Dratini. Well, why is that there? We just kind of slow pan over it, and is that the anime putting in, anatomy into Pokemon? Because that looks like a very intentional Goldeen butthole, and I don't know any other way of describing it. So let's just move on to number 8 on the list. Now, for some things on this list, it's actually really simple. You don't need to go in depth. You don't really have to break it down too much. It's something that once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And thanks to Chugga Conroy, see that metal thing on top of its head? It's a toy airplane. Now you can never unsee it. Heatran's got a toy airplane on its head. Number 7, Kikuno. I mean, we can kind of just burst fire these to a degree, because Kikuno, it has a bow tie. And these are kind of the silly ones that when researching the last video, I saw. But when putting in the video, it's how much of the videos they're going to be? Heatran to airplane head? Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Kikuno's bow tie, it's well, that makes the video just feel like it doesn't have a lot of content. However, we're doing a follow-up, and people wanted to see it. So yeah, but one thing that's interesting about this is that Kikuno didn't always have a bow tie. That in the first generation games, Kikuno actually had a drastically different design in that instead of having its arms and its claws just kind of all scrunched together and it being a more inanimate cocoon, it actually looked a lot more offensive. It looked a lot more aggressive. Compared to Metapod, this thing was ready to jump out and just straight up attack you, which isn't really a characteristic you'd expect from a cocoon, but hey, that's how it's designed. You can even look at some of the older cards that, the claws are hanging out. It's ready to strike. It shows what kind of aggression we're dealing with. And this isn't even new for the first generation of Pokemon. That there are actually a couple of original, just OG Pokemon designs that were slowly changed over time, such as Charmander. Charmander actually had a spike on its back. Like, you might have heard that from like some other trivia and stuff, but it's actually a pretty neat thing to see like these design changes and how they also affect it, and then eventually just kind of stumbling into Kikuno with a bow tie. But if you don't see Charmander's back spike too well, it looks like a little lump there. It doesn't seem like it's meant to do anything. It's actually in the Pokemon Adventures manga as well. So it's not like this one-off thing or a little bit of an art error. It was actually something that was supposed to be a staple of Charmander's design, but slowly just kind of faded out over the years. And that's kind of what we're left with. Number 6 on the list is going to be Bulbasaur. So the Gen 1 Bulbasaur sprite. It turns out there's a lot of things from Gen 1 that can be misinterpreted, and that makes a lot of sense because we're dealing with a limited color palette, if any color palette at all, a very low amount of pixels, but we have a whole monster to convey, so you have to kind of make this one make sense. And the original Bulbasaur sprite, an artist interpretation as to what's going on here is that it's Bulbasaur just kind of like half standing up and playing the harmonica, just blowing a nice little tune. But also, this is up to interpretation because there's other people that think that it's actually Bulbasaur just going, psst, hey, what's up? I'm gonna fight for you. We're gonna have a good time. So, I mean, I think that's pretty cool as well. That's not even just one thing you can't unsee, it's two. So what are you guys? Are you team psst or are you team music? Comment down below. And while you're leaving a comment, don't forget to like this video, share with all your friends if you think it's interesting, and maybe check out the last video if you haven't already seen it. YouTube shill. Number 5 on the list is Ludicolo. Now this one is coming from the comment section of the last video, and it took me a while to figure it out because the comment was something like, oh, the top of Ludicolo's head in the 3rd generation sprite looks like a bird. So I'm looking at this back sprite, I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, wait, you mean the pineapple? But then when you see it, that bird is now nested on top of Ludicolo forever, and you will never unsee it. Number 4 on the list, Talonflame appears once again. So as if Talonflame wasn't bad enough to make it on the list for the last one, because when you're looking at the back sprite of Talonflame and it's flapping, its wings are clipping. The model clips into itself, which is always just something to make fun of when it comes to game design and 3D animation and stuff. Not really a huge mark against the game creators, but something noteworthy that you can't unsee once you've seen it. So Talonflame made it into last video and manages to make it in this video because someone pointed out that it looks like the back end of Talonflame. That's not a tail. That's just a guy with striped pants that has lodged his head up, trying to keep this video friendly, but I think you can understand what's going on right here. Now, I never saw that before, and when doing research for the last video, one of my friends brought that up. I'm like, I can't put that in the video. That's too lewd. But since I already talked about Bonsly and Whismur, I guess there's no limits for this video. Actually, that gives me an idea. Alright, cool, I think we got thumbnail material now. Number 3 on the list is Shroomish. So much like some of the other Pokemon I've shown in these videos, some of them are just heavily memed for how silly their design looks or what happens when you see something you can't unsee it. And Shroomish is actually a really good one because even if you turn it upside down, it still has a face. People just make the joke that, oh, you turn Shroomish upside down and it becomes an entirely different Pokemon. So there it is. And I think that's actually pretty hilarious and pretty good looking. And then when you take you can take in-game models, you can take sprites. When you take the official art, hey, you got a purty mouth. That starts to get a little questionable with the intent behind that face. Now, some people have compared this face to a Goomba, but I prefer to go the bandit route because that is the grin of ill intent. Number 2 on the list, guys. We're getting serious, and I'm learning the mistakes from my last video, so if you do not want your childhood ruined, if you do not want your precious Emerald version with its battle frontier and what everything the new Pokemon game needs to be, you better click off this video right now, but not before I play an ad. Alright, welcome back. Hope you had enough time to piece off this video, but the trees have eyes. Not only do the trees have eyes, but they have faces on them. And it's not just like one little tree or a specific tree, but I saw this post, it's like, well, now you're screwed because it's every tree. Whenever you're walking around the Hoenn region, doing whatever you want, playing through the game, you have to do it with the knowledge that the trees are watching you. Every single one of them, that disturbed, tormented face of a haunted tree that's seen some things, they're there and they surround you. And I hope you can sleep well at night. And now that makes 2 games I've ruined forever. But number 1 on the list, we are getting into memes, we are getting into silliness, we are getting into shenanigans, and that is Jinx's boob jiggle physics. That is right, Jinx has jiggle physics in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Its 3D model has a separate little indicator for its boobage, and it even has its own modifier. Look at that. Jinx's boobs are fixed towards the body in the 14th group and the 84th line. Apart from having a move of 0.5, it also has a rotation of 0.5, and you can even see this in the animation in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Jinx sways, but its boobs have some gravity to it. Okay then, now the fun thing is, it's not even just Pokemon Sun and Moon. 3D Pokemon games have given Jinx Jiggle Physics, and we're going all the way back to Pokemon Stadium. Game Freak was ahead of its time, giving Jiggle Physics in a Nintendo 64 game. Now you might not notice it, but if you zoom in and slow down, you can see that there is some bounce to Jinx when it is doing its idle animation as well as an attack. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.